And in Danville, you are being hammered again by yet another strong thunderstorm, heavy rain, gusty wind, and a lot of lightning. And when we were looking at our Danville sky camera, it was quite ominous as there was a roll cloud being pushed out across Danville from the storm, and that would be indicative of some strong wind blowing out from the storm. Also, we have severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for Halifax County, and in the Lynchburg area, you can see that rain is approaching, though we don't have any severe weather into Lynchburg. As far as the tornado warning, it is going to be until 8 p.m. for Allegheny County, and you can see it right here. So this is right along the West Virginia and Virginia state line. If there's a tornado within this storm, it is going to be very difficult to see. It is going to be hiding in the rain. So we're going to track this storm as it does make its way into Allegheny County. Will Stafford, meteorologist Will Stafford, is in the Weather Center, and he is controlling some of the radar images and also the sky cam. So, Will, what I want to do is to go first look at that tornado warning in Allegheny County. It is right in here. So this is south of Lewisburg, and certainly Lewisburg, that is just out of the ABC 13 viewing area, but Covington and Allegheny County is part of our broadcast area, so that's why we are on right now. We're going to stay on until this danger has passed. If there is a tornado, it is going to be located right here. The good news for Covington is that if there is a tornado warning, it appears it is going to pass just to your south, but we need to monitor this because this could move very, very close to the Covington area. Covington, you're getting heavy rain and lightning right now, so you're getting some quite the storm, but the tornadic, the rotating part of the storm is in here toward Allegheny County, right along the state line. Well, let's change it over to what we call the velocity mode, and that's where we're specifically looking at wind. As I'm looking at this storm, this is a cell that looked more impressive, say, 10 to 15 minutes ago. As you can see, where the green and reds come together, that is where up at cloud level it is rotating. We have not had any tornado confirmed as of yet out of this storm. And as I'm looking at this, the rotation does not look as well organized as it did earlier. So it's spinning. There's at least broad rotation up at cloud level, but I'm not seeing anything that is indicative of an obvious sign of, oh, wow, this is a tornado. Be very, very careful in this area. I do recommend being in your place of tornado shelter in western Allegheny County, just in case this storm does end up producing a tornado. Let me take you to other storms, and we're going to put this back into, or actually, we'll leave it right there. Go to Rocky Mount.
I was going to say, the reason why they issued that warning for Danville was because of that broad area of spin. To be honest with you, this actually looks a lot worse than that rotation that we were watching over in Allegheny County. And this is just moving into Danville, so this is on the north side of Danville now. Again, no tornado warning with this, but it is more than likely has some gusty winds. And honestly, it doesn't matter if the wind is spinning or if it's blowing out in a straight line. Wind is wind, and you could probably expect to see that, especially north of the Dan River there, up around New Design, right around Highway 29 Business. This is before, right around where the bypass and also where 29, the business route there intersects.
And Will, let's go to Franklin County because, and this is actually a bit atypical of our coverage. Normally if there's a tornado warning, we stay with just that storm, but we're actually seeing more problems from the severe thunderstorm warnings. See this right here? This is actually going off the color scale into the yellow. This is very strong wind pushing out from these storms right through here. If you live in Ferrum, if you live in Rocky Mount, be prepared for strong straight line wind. Normally on the radar, it does not look that as intense, but this is wind likely of 60 miles an hour plus. It's going to be coming at you from the west, strong straight line wind from the storm. Be in your place of shelter if you live in Ferrum, anywhere near State Highway 40, Route 40, and into Rocky Mount. This is going to be moving your direction. One thing we also have to watch out for is that sometimes when you do have these areas of straight line wind, there can be tornadoes that develop, and the area we would need to watch would be right in here on the north side of the arc, the north side of the bow. That's where air can go in this direction and then come out this way. So this would be an area that we do need to watch for spin and the potential that there could be a tornado out of this in Franklin County. So that's what we're watching for you very, very closely.
They've just gone ahead and issued a new warning, and I know we've got so many warnings it's kind of hard to tell, so I'm going to outline the new one. The new warning is essentially this area right in through here. That's the new severe thunderstorm warning. So it covers a lot of real estate. So pretty much all of Henry County, the rest of Franklin County, and most of Pittsylvania County now under a new severe thunderstorm warning, and that goes until 8:45 for this evening.
As you mentioned, there are, Will, let's clean up the map. Let's take off, can you take off the warnings? Because there's so many warnings on this map that it's so many arrows that it's almost so hard to see. And let's put this into motion, and we're going to loop this for you. So the bottom line, if you live in Danville, another strong storm for you. The strongest part of the storm is moving across the northern part of the city. So this would be toward the Blair side of town along 29 Business. That's where the strongest part of the storm is in the Danville area. In Chatham, you're probably hearing thunder, heavy rain from Chatham down through tight squeeze, and then in Rocky Mount, there's very strong wind pushing out from this storm. Be prepared to seek shelter from the storm. It's not a tornado warning, but it may seem like it because there's simply just so much wind that is blowing out. Now, as far as the Lynchburg area, the storms that we have around Lynchburg are nowhere near as severe. We do have some rain pushing its way across Amherst County, but it is not severe. Nelson County, you're also getting some rain out of this. Will, let's go back and take a look at the storm with the tornado warning on it for Allegheny County. As we mentioned, normally if there's a storm with a tornado warning, we specifically stay on that, but we're actually seeing other storms that are of larger issues. And this does not look like a storm that would have a tornado warning on it. This simply just looks like some strong wind pushing out. A little earlier when this storm was closer toward Lewisburg, there was a rotation in it, but right now that just looks like an ordinary strong storm, if that makes sense. So Allegheny County officially you remain under a tornado warning, but most of this is just simply going to be some straight line wind. Covington, that part of the circulating part of the storm, that is going to be staying to your south. Let's recenter this map so that if somebody's watching us from Lynchburg right now, they have an idea of what to expect. So if you are watching us in the Lynchburg area, be prepared for thunderstorms to move in during the next 2 hours. The rain is not that far away. You may be hearing thunder right now into Amherst and Nelson County. No warnings are in effect for you, but be prepared for some heavy rain, lightning, and thunder. South Boston, Halifax County, you remain under a severe thunderstorm warning. As you can see right in here is where that is located. Will, let's go back toward Halifax County and South Side, and let's readdress these storms here. And also, Will, if you could check some of the storm reports. Will's doing 1,000 things right now in the Weather Center. If you live in South Boston, heavy rain and lightning with this storm. We've seen so much lightning, particularly across South Side, out of these thunderstorms. If you have to drive between Danville and South Boston along 58-360, I would hold off on driving that as the driving conditions are going to be miserable. We're near sunset anyway, so the visibility is not going to be the best. And much of the visibility you may be getting may actually be from the lightning, just kind of lighting everything up. Very heavy rain, water on the road. Be very, very careful if you do have to go, but I would hold off driving for the next hour between South Boston and Danville. Let's go back to Franklin County. And if you're just joining us, we'll reset here for a second. I'm George Flickinger with ABC 13. Will Stafford is in the Weather Center, and we're going to be on live until about 8 p.m. as there actually is a tornado-warned storm near Allegheny County, near Covington. However, because we have so many severe thunderstorm warnings, we are going to be staying on for you because these severe thunderstorms are actually stronger than that storm with the tornado warning, if that makes sense. And that's a bit rare to say. But right through here, very strong wind in Fair.
George?
Yes, sir.
If I could interrupt briefly.
Yes, sir.
Our radar, especially right there around Ferrum, is detecting about 70-mile-an-hour winds. If that is actually reaching the ground, if that wind is reaching up from cloud level down to ground level, our radar has indicated, I think it was right in through here.
70-mile-an-hour wind?
Close to 70-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, that's one of the things you can do with the radar. You can get a real good estimate on wind speed, and it is more likely that this would be accurate, more accurate than some, because this is closer to the radar. The radar itself is in Floyd County. As you know, if you live in Franklin County, you are not that far away from Floyd County.
Actually, you can see the radar right there. There's the donut hole right over there.
So we will call this wind of 60 plus, and we are likely going to be getting reports of some wind damage. Will, I don't think we're going to be surprised if we start getting reports of maybe some trees down in Franklin County out of this, and this would include in Ferrum.
Not at all. If someone is in the newsroom that might be watching this, I'm not sure if Ferrum has a webcam up. I know Ferrum College is right there. They've got a webcam up, or they've got a Twitter feed or something. It'd be very interesting to see what just blew through Ferrum right now. So if someone back in the newsroom or anyone really could kind of look into that, that would be great.
Yeah, and as I'm looking, I have a laptop computer here in front of me where I'm also looking and analyzing the storm. This is an unusually strong storm for our area as far as the straight line wind. When we say straight line wind, it's just that. It's wind which blows out of the storm in one direction. Now, sometimes it can curl a little bit on the ground in these various eddies, but it starts off as straight line wind blowing straight out of the storm. Rocky Mount, be prepared for this storm. Also checking, we've had some hail reported. Dime-size hail has been reported in Montgomery County from the storm when it passed through, and that was just a little bit earlier. So when this storm was in Montgomery County near Highway 221, US 221, we did get some reports of some dime-size hail. Meteorologist Will Stafford has more info.
They have canceled that tornado warning for Allegheny County.
And let's go back and revisit that. So as Will Stafford just reported, that tornado warning, which when we were looking at it, we'll just say it this way, it did not look like the strongest tornado warning we've ever seen in the world. And that has since diminished. And what there is of the circulation is right in here. Well, I think the main issue is just simply going to be low visibility, heavy rain for people who are driving across Allegheny County. If you are in Allegheny County in your place of tornado shelter, it is okay to come out of your tornado shelter. No tornado was detected. The rotation we were seeing, this was being monitored up at cloud level, and it appears that has weakened. So that is good news. If you're in Lynchburg, we've avoided the rain, most of the rain so far today. Yes, we will be having rain moving in during the next hour. Do not see this right now. I'm not seeing a huge storm for Lynchburg. Of course, we're not going to completely let our guard down, but in the Lynchburg area, we will see storms moving in during the next hour. My best advice to you, if you live in Danville, and we just got a storm report from Danville of hail in Danville. This was of marble-size hail from that storm that we were just showing you. Will, could you pull up the Danville sky camera? The last time that I was, and of course we can control whichever direction we want to look, and this is looking to the northwest. If you're familiar with Danville, this is the top of the YMCA, and we're looking to the northwest, quite ominous looking, but it appears that the strongest part of the storm is now to the east of this camera, so conditions will be improving for you in Danville. But my goodness, you've had heavy rain and significant storms throughout today, and now those storms are making their way into Halifax County.
Yes, sir. We also should mention, George, that while they might be improving shortly, they very well could get blasted again by this very impressive squall line coming out of Franklin County right now. I'm going to pull a storm track on that.
And as Will is looking at this, I'm also looking at some of the radar info on this laptop computer here. And this is something that we're going to need to watch for a tornado warning embedded within this line, because these would be sometimes spin-up type tornadoes which can occur within the line. So this means that wind is blowing in one direction straight out, and then you can have these little eddies which can rotate, and those can produce, and that can be a small tornado or now wind damage is wind damage, but obviously if we have a tornado, that is going to be a pretty big deal. Right now, no tornado warnings with that storm, but it does have a tremendous amount of wind. Rocky Mount, it is blowing in. Oak Level, you're next, Stanleytown, and eventually Martinsville. Will, let's pull or you've already done that, a storm track. So Martinsville, and again, this is an estimate from this storm. Yes, we know that it's already storming in Martinsville, but we're looking at this particular Boeing segment here. That is going to be near you at 8:15. So that would be during the next 20 minutes. You can expect the wind to get stronger in Martinsville. So that will actually be a stronger storm than the one that you have right now. Rocky Mount, that storm is now blowing its way into town. If you know anybody at Smith Mountain Lake, and I couldn't imagine that anybody would be on their boat right now at Smith Mountain Lake with the lightning and rain around, but they really need to get off the lake right now. So if you know someone out on the lake, call up their cell phone, call them in, because they need to get off the lake, because this is going to be some strong wind. It's going to be blowing in from the west. This is going to be strong wind blowing across Smith Mountain Lake, and that will be occurring within the next 20 minutes. So strong storms, Franklin County, Henry County, Pittsylvania County, and also into Halifax County. So, Will, I'm looking for storm reports, and I'm seeing, again, this report of the hail in Danville, of this marble-sized hail, which was reported from the storm. Will, let's recenter the map. So what we want to do, it's 7:52. We're going to recenter it. Maybe you're just now turning on your television. Maybe you're just now following our live coverage. George Flickinger here with you, and we originally broke into programming a little after 7:30 because a tornado warning was issued for a storm near Covington. That quickly diminished. However, we have some very intense storms which are making their way across Franklin County right through here. There's wind being pushed out from these storms. Danville, strong storms. South Boston, you're going to be next. And I think what we want to do here is we're going to stay on until 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, we are going to go back to regular programming. But while we have this very strong wind across Rocky Mount into Franklin County, we're going to keep monitoring these storms. I don't see that strongest of the wind reaching Lynchburg, Bedford, or Roanoke, but we will have rain and thunderstorms. Look how much the rain has expanded across Amherst and into Nelson County. Will, let's zoom in closer toward the Lynchburg area for our viewers. Maybe somebody's watching us from Amherst, Madison Heights right now, the Monroe area, and Eland. Excuse me. God bless you, sir. This is heavy rain, which is falling in Amherst, as you can see. And this is, gosh, that's a blessing itself that you're getting that rain because your ground is very dry. So heavy rain, thunderstorms into Amherst, Nelson County, Livingston, toward Wintergreen, the Colleen area, and more rain will be advancing our direction as that rain out toward I-81 moves in. We will get heavy rain out of this in Lynchburg because if you just think how much more warm and humid it is. You may be just sitting at your house right now. And you may have had to turn up the air conditioner in the last couple of hours just simply because the humidity is getting thicker. That is going to act as storm fuel for when this rain, when it arrives. We do not see this rain weakening. Sometimes we do see that happening when it moves off of the mountains, but we have so much storm fuel that we will see these rain and thunderstorms surviving. However, the strongest of the storms and the warnings still look to be across South Side, which is good news. We all see we have, of course, still the warnings for Rocky Mount, Franklin County into Pittsylvania County. So let's go revisit that direction and let's take a look at some of these storms. My goodness, we've seen some heavy rain today. Right now, we are tracking strong thunderstorms pushing their way across Franklin County right through here. Smith Mountain Lake, you're going to be next. The heavy rain is now getting ready to cross 220, Oak Level, Martinsville, and then eventually we're going to see this rain returning to Danville. So many of you in Danville are going to end up in the 1 to 2 inch range of rain out of this. Many of us are simply not seeing anything that close, but Danville looks to be one of the big winners in the rain for today as these rain and thunderstorms continue moving toward the south and east. So strong wind will continue pushing out. This will include Franklin County, Martinsville, and eventually toward Danville, Chatham. Gretna is one of the spots that's avoided a lot of the rain today, but these thunderstorms will be advancing your direction, and Alta Vista, you should be getting rain out of this as well. Yes, sir, Mr. Stafford.
Just wanted to go back to the velocity mode and show you the wind. If that wind is verifying, which we believe it is, it's pretty close to the radar, some very, very strong wind where you see that yellow from Rocky Mount down to Oak Level, pretty much right along Route 220. That is a very, very strong signature that we have some very strong, maybe even damaging wind right along Route 220 now. It's just now crossing 220, and it's going over here towards the eastern parts of Franklin County, and it'll be back into areas around Pennsylvania County. If that wind holds together, we just learned from our 5 and 6 o'clock newscast that there were already some damage going around from the earlier round of storms in areas around Pennsylvania County, and of course those storms would be moving their way back into areas around western portions of Pennsylvania County, the same areas that did see the storms earlier on today. So that's something that we'll be watching, because then you may have a situation where you could have some of that debris that's already been knocked down kind of blowing around as well. What was that? Let's see what that was.
This got a new warning coming in. And what's interesting about this, that the storms that you're showing there, it is rare for us to be seeing storms that strong within our viewing area. Normally, we don't see wind of that magnitude when we are tracking the storm. So Franklin County just getting absolutely hammered right now. Smith Mountain Lake, again, if you know someone who is out at Smith Mountain Lake, out on their boat, they absolutely need to get off of their boat, and they need to shelter up from this storm, because wind of 60 miles an hour seems very doable from this storm as it makes its way toward Smith Mountain Lake. So that is, I'm trying to remember, it's been a long time, Will, since I've seen storms with that much wind showing up on our radar. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be getting a lot of reports of wind damage out of this.
I'm going to see if I can get the Smith Mountain Lake sky camera up to see if we actually have that. I can't remember if it's...
Maybe get a shot. Yeah, the camera's working. Yeah, the camera's working well.
Around. So that's a live look from Smith Mountain Lake. And again, this is moving in towards the areas around Smith Mountain Lake. As George has been saying, if you're on the lake, if you know someone that's on the lake, please get off the lake. Pretty nasty storm moving on in. I'm actually going to move it a little bit, move the camera a little bit to the left there.
In this direction, this is looking a tad to the northwest. You can see the darker clouds there, and so Will's going to jump in and get a hold of the sky cam and move it basically to the left, which would be more of a southwest view, and we're probably going to see a storm looking much more ominous. So strong wind approaching Smith Mountain Lake, but as I'm also looking at the radar, hopefully the strongest of the wind is going to stay just south of the lake. The Pinhook side of Smith Mountain Lake is going to end up getting stronger wind than, say, the Manita side of the lake.
Actually, George is not letting me move the camera. So.
Okay. Let's go back to, let's go to our other weather computer right now. And we'll take a look at the wind. Or actually, yeah, we can leave it right here. So we have the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Franklin County. Strong straight line wind out of this storm. Be prepared for wind gust, which could be exceeding 60 miles an hour. This is also going to be making its way into Pennsylvania County, and in Danville, more storms are going to be moving your way. So the time is now 7:59. So we are going to be signing off, and we're going to be going back to regular programming because we do not have any tornado warnings in effect. But if you live in Roanoke, Bedford, and Lynchburg, yes, we will be getting rain and thunderstorms. If we see any warnings, we will keep you advised of that. But right now, it looks like that the strongest of the storms will continue to rumble their way across Southside. Mr. Stafford's pulling out a fresh storm track. So Martinsville, of course, you have rain now, but some of that stronger wind near 8 o'clock. Danville before 9. Of course, you already have rain now, but some of that stronger wind toward 9. And Cluster Springs near just after 9 o'clock. George Flickinger along with Will Stafford, and we will send you back to regular ABC 13 programming.